Hello, my name is Kyle, and this is Kyle's Food Reviews. Today is October 8th, 2020, and today I will be having Super Meal Chicken Flavored Ramen. Now, the reason I decided to have chicken flavored ramen today is because I had ramen in the cabinet and I wanted to have something for dinner, so I decided that ramen would be the best choice. Now, the way this ramen is prepared is you fill it up to the fill line within the bowl with water, and then you pour in the flavor packet. Now, the flavor packet contains things to give it the chicken flavor that we all know and love. After that, you put it in the microwave I personally put it in for 3 minutes and let it take all the way down or until the water starts to boil. Now, today, it went the whole 3 minutes, but sometimes it only goes 2.5. But either way, you wait until you feel the soup is cooked enough, which it's already cooked, which is whatever temperature you'd like. I always cook it to a higher temperature than I prefer, and then put ice cubes in it to ensure that it is at the right temperature for consumption, so I don't burn my mouth. Now, if you look inside, you can see the soup. It's got some flavor powder along the outside, but what can you expect? I believe this is $1 at your local dollar store. Anyway, I'm going to give it the first taste. Get some soup. Ooh, see, it doesn't quite want to get inside of the spoon. That's one issue with all ramens and all soups, really, with stringy noodles that I personally have experienced, is the fact that it's really hard to get all of it onto the spoon and make it stay there. So look, I'm going to actually put my head quite close to the bowl to consume this because it becomes a little difficult. So, got to blow on it first to make sure that, it's not too hot. And then okay, so that was a good first bite. It tasted exactly how you'd expect, pretty processed in the chicken department, not great, but not awful. So far, the eating experience is quite enjoyable. It's actually not nearly as hot as it usually would be, which is odd considering I left it in longer than usual. Maybe I filled the water a little bit too much this time. Who knows, but I'm going to keep enjoying my meal. Yeah, that one was a little bit more hot. Maybe the top layer, maybe I didn't mix it well enough. Maybe the top layer is cooler than the other layers. Now, the one other issue that I have with this is I personally don't like the assortment of vegetables that they put in the additional packet that you put in after the soup is cooked. So I personally leave it out because I'm not a fan of the assortment that they chose. However, if you guys would like to see another video where I add that assortment and rate it in that sense, then of course I will oblige. Now, of the famous brands of ramen, I think that Super Meal, not exactly the most wonderful ramen. It's definitely not up there in terms of best ramen. It's just what my roommate happened to buy when he went to the grocery store last. And one thing about having a soup is you don't, or at least in my experience, you don't usually have any sort of drink with it. It's more of it's partially a liquid, so it's more of a drink all by itself. Another great thing about soup, which is always a plus for food, in my opinion, is food that you don't need to touch, because I personally don't like getting my hands dirty, and also I don't like the idea of the germs from my hands, even if I wash my hands, sanitize right before getting into my food. So I like when food does not require that it be touched, and soup is a perfect example of that with a spoon. So far, I would rate my experience as pretty good actually this time, considering the heat level is a little bit lower than normal. But taste-wise, again, you can very much so tell it's chicken flavor, not chicken. It's very artificial tasting. On top of that, definitely a lot of sodium. If I check the ingredients, you can see 39% sodium. Now that's a lot. But again, it's very cheap. Cheaper food tends to be more unhealthy, amongst other things, so it's to be expected. One thing, though, is that amount of sodium does slightly counteract the fact that you don't normally need or even necessarily want a drink with your soup. So actually, due to that fact, I will be right back. So today, with my soup, I will be having Monster Ultra Sunrise. It is my recently discovered new favorite flavor of Monster and possibly my favorite beverage out of all of the available beverages at the local 7-Eleven. See, a lot of sodium requires that you have a beverage to counteract. Now, that's why I like Ultra Sunrise so much. Ultra Sunrise has this really incredible, I don't know what actual flavor it is, but if I had to guess based on my advanced palate, I would say blood orange, or possibly a grapefruit flavor. It definitely has a blend of citrus of some kind. But the most prominent flavor that I can describe is blood orange. Now that flavor is very different from the normal Monster flavor, which doesn't list on the canister, but as anyone who has had Monster can tell you, it's usually a kind of green apple. It's actually quite sour, at least in my opinion, and I do like that. But this has a very different kind of sour taste, one that I honestly prefer a lot more. Now, sometimes, once you're eating soup, you get to the point where it's harder to get noodles because there's too much liquid compared to noodles because a spoon can only fit a certain amount of liquid. So what you do, at least what I do, is I like to get the soup, especially with these paper bowls, you bend it a little bit so it's more of a nozzle, and then you can drink. And that, in my opinion, really does help with the soup eating experience. It expedites the process, and also you get the flavor of the soup and also the flavor of the noodles. So you basically get double the flavor. And again, take a drink of the beverage of your choice. In my choice, it is Monster Ultra Sunrise. Now, one thing that I'm not quite sure about, as I'm not exactly a food historian, but I do believe to be true, is that ramen would traditionally, obviously this isn't a traditional ramen, it's, ramen in a microwavable bowl, but traditionally it would be eaten with chopsticks, which brings even more question to me as to how exactly you get the liquid from the soup. That is something that in my next video I might intro with some ramen facts explaining how I think it was done, back in the day. But today I think, it's best to just enjoy my meal. Now, once again, I'm in that stage where the noodles become a little bit hard to get. So that's when you grab your spoon so it doesn't fall too deep into the bowl, and then another reason you don't start with that sort of tactic is because the fact that ramen, at least in my experience again, is generally too hot when first taken out of the microwave, even once you put some ice cubes in it to cool it down, to take full gulps like that. Of course, like I said, surprisingly today, it is not particularly hot, which I actually enjoy. I'm a bigger fan of a warm soup than a boiling hot soup, and I'm sure there's people out there like me, but, it's not exactly the norm, at least not as far as I know. Sorry, I'll be right back. I need to get a napkin for some of the ramen actually spilled out of my mouth while I was taking that last gulp. I'm going to be using a paper towel as a napkin. It's not preferable, but it's not the worst choice for a napkin. But again, that salty flavor does, in fact, make me want to take a drink. Again, I can't overstate this enough. The processed amount of the chicken combined with the high sodium content makes a beverage really necessary when having the soup. Even though soups are, at least in my experience, typically something that you don't want to have a beverage with due to the fact that they're basically a beverage in themselves. That is all my ramen completed. Now, it is time for me to rate the food and beverage that I had today. So, I brought up the price point of the ramen and how the price point isn't that bad. And for what you're getting, it's worth it. You're getting a full meal for basically $1. However, again, the actual taste of the meal, not incredible. It's very, very salty. On top of that, it's very artificial. The chicken just tastes very artificial. And, yeah, so all that considered, not awful. I'd probably give it a 4. Now, mind you, my rating system, a 5 or higher is a food that I would want to consume often. Super meal chicken flavored ramen is not exactly a meal that I'd want to have often, but it's not bad. It's just not good enough to where I would want to eat it all the time. Now onto the beverages rating. Now the beverage, that's where the meal really shines. As I said before, this is one of my favorite, if not my new favorite, Monster flavor. And I am a big fan of Monster. So, all that being considered, I would give Monster Ultra Sunrise probably a 9 out of 10 on the beverage scale. That being considered, I think that's all we have for today's episode. So, my name is Kyle. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more food reviews. Bye.